President Obama goes on Google Hangout. So while President Obama is getting heat from reporters at the White House because they don't have a picture of him golfing with Tiger Woods, President Obama also recently did a Google Plus Hangout with regular citizens. Now, some of them are bloggers, conservative bloggers, etc., and he got much better questions. Now, mind you, I'm not a conservative. I'm on the opposite side. But these were good questions, the kind of questions we never hear from the so-called professional press. So first one comes from Kira Davis. She's a conservative video blogger. Let's check it out.
You ran on a platform of really trying to become one of the most transparent administrations in American history. However, with recent leaked guidelines regarding drone strikes on American citizens, how has the reality of the presidency changed that promise?
Well, actually, on a whole bunch of fronts, we've kept that promise. This is the most transparent administration in history, and I can document how that is the case. There are a handful of issues, mostly around national security, where people have legitimate questions, where they're still concerned. When it comes to things like how we conduct counterterrorism, there are legitimate questions there, and we should have that debate.
You know, he keeps saying the most transparent, administration in history. Glenn Greenwald, whenever he puts that statement in an article, puts a trademark next to it, because they just say it. They just like it's one of their taglines. Can they prove it? No. Is it remotely true? Not even close. I mean, we're executing U.S. citizens, and they won't even show us the legal memo that justifies it. Those guys are not getting due process. They're not getting trials. They're not getting anything. They won't even show us the memo that says, oh, we have the right to execute those U.S. citizens. Most transparent administration. What a joke, right? But he just says it, and the rest of the press corps say, well, okay, well, they must be transparent. Okay, except for when they don't give us the golf pictures. And then President Obama has another great trick. He says, those are legitimate questions on national security, et cetera. All right, great. Since they're legitimate questions, why don't you answer them? No, my answer was they're a legitimate question, and here's what you're going to get. Nothing. Am I going to give it to you? No, of course not. So Lee Doran, who's also conservative, also on YouTube, does a great job. Asks him in a follow-up question that's very good.
A lot of people are very concerned that your administration now believes it's legal to have drone strikes on American citizens, and whether or not that's specifically allowed with citizens within the United States. And if that's not true, what will you do to create a legal framework to make American citizens within the United States know that drone strikes cannot be used against American citizens?
Well, first of all, I think there's never been a drone used on an American citizen on American soil. And we respect and have a whole bunch of safeguards in terms of how we conduct counterterrorism operations outside of the United States. The rules outside of the United States are going to be different than the rules inside the United States, in part because our capacity to, for example, capture terrorists in the United States are very different than in the foothills or mountains of Afghanistan or Pakistan. But it is not sufficient for citizens to just take my word for it that we're doing the right thing. What we've done so far is to try to work with Congress on oversight issues. But part of what I'm going to have to work with Congress on is to make sure that whatever it is that we're providing Congress, that we have mechanisms to also make sure that the public understands what's going on, what the constraints are, what the legal parameters are, and that's something that I take very seriously. I am not somebody who believes that the president has the authority to do whatever he wants or whatever she wants whenever they want, just under the guise of counterterrorism.
Great question, and you can tell by his immediate response to the question, which was, I'm not used to getting real questions. I normally deal with the American press. Well, what was that? That wasn't even a softball. How do I answer this? And then he gave an answer. He said, all right, well, look, at least we're not executing U.S. citizens on American soil. He didn't say we weren't executing them. He just said we're not doing it on American soil. So, okay, we've got an answer there. By the way, before all this, the only other show that had ever asked the president about drone strikes was The Daily Show. So who's the real joke? It's actually the mainstream press, the establishment press. And by the way, why do they do that? Why don't they ever ask the questions Lee Dorn and Kira Davis just asked and The Daily Show asked? It's because they're worried about getting access to the president. If you ask the president a tough question, well, obviously you're never going to get another interview with him. Whereas these guys don't care about getting another interview with him because they're not going to get one anyway. So they ask him real questions. And at the end, we got two things on the record that are very important. He said, "It is not sufficient for you to take my word on it." Great. Show us the memos. You're now on the record saying it's not sufficient. I just tell you, I'm a very serious guy. Just take my word for it. But that's exactly what you're doing right now. And in fact, later on, he said, well, I take this very seriously. And but then again, one other follow-up he said is that you shouldn't just trust my authority. Great. I don't trust your authority. Show me the memos. And show me the evidence you had before you executed those U.S. citizens. Now, you're not going to do that, are you? So it's fake transparency. You just tell me how serious you are and how I should question you. And the minute I do question you, you say, oh, hell no, I'm not giving you a damn thing. So great questions by these guys. And it just shows you how pathetic our so-called press is, that they haven't asked this 100 times over, let alone once. God, so frustrating.